I think the words dinner theater for kids is just a catchy notion, because it's like, wait a second, I've heard of that. Yeah, you haven't. It doesn't exist anywhere. It's here. It's here in Bloomington. Sure. Constellation has a unique mission. It produces 50% new works, 50% established works. We're a product of a merger of multiple companies of Bloomington Playwrights Project, Cardinal Stage, and Pegasus Institute about almost 5 years ago now, where we merged together to figure out if we could build back better, if we could post-pandemic create something that was even more valuable for the community than the three organizations were separately. And so that brought in elements of the new works, elements of established, and elements of film. And then we took over the beautiful Waldron Art Center here, did a major renovation of the building, added all the Art Deco touches that you see, have 4 visual arts galleries that we manage on top of that, and are essentially the leading theatrical resource and arts resource for the area and for South Central Indiana. Our passion for new works and our interest in developing those works for theaters and communities across the country, it was extremely valuable to us, and we don't want to see that go away in a merger that aimed to try to make something bigger.
As we continue to develop our audience strategy, right, we're feeling like a deeper and deeper need to eventize a lot of what we do in order to get audiences to come into the theater. We're programming more and more to those single ticket buyers. There's a lot of folks that are repeat customers, but they're coming back for very similar material every year, and it's becoming more difficult, I think, to get someone that is a tried and true like thriller goer to buy a ticket to a drama or a comedy. And so we're getting this continued kind of bifurcation of our audience. And there was a time when we had, I think 50% of our earned revenue was coming from season ticket revenue, and now it's closer to 25 to 30% on a good year. So we're dependent more and more on that single ticket revenue. I know this is a trend nationwide, but it just creates a new challenge for us. I really think that creation of the theater as the third space where we all gather to experience these stories is really critical for us to get beyond this current time that we're in of like just eventizing single ticket focus. We have to start building back some of that customer loyalty, I think, that generates a ongoing culture of theater going.
Finn is about a young shark who is getting ready to try out for the Shark Guard, who are the fearsome protectors of the ocean, when he discovers that he also might be a little bit like the fish that they're trying to protect. And it's his journey of discovery and finding the sparkle and shine inside of him. Finn at Constellation is the Woodward Newman Award winner, which is our annual New Play Award. It is also just a really, really fun time. It's our first PB&J cafe, which is a dinner theater for kids where they get to sit at some tables and order food, like an Uncrustable with a little side and a cookie, and enjoy a couple activities before the show, and then they watch the show, which is really exciting. Constellation does a new children's show every year. That is sometimes a musical, sometimes it is not. And so the PB&J Cafe was born from the idea that parents were more willing to take risks on new work with their kids if they knew that they were going to have a good time regardless. Finn is an incredible show and an incredible first PB&J Cafe for us, because we're hoping that what it will do is teach people that not only are you coming to this really novel experience, which is a dinner theater for kids, but you're also coming to see a really, really great show. Finn is a really, really solid new work, and it's really great for us to be able to launch it with that. And hopefully next year, when we do a show that might not have as much name recognition or might not be as exciting to people because they're worried that their kids won't like it or something like that, that they will continue to come for the experience of the PB&J Cafe.
So our family-friendly series, our kids series, I think is the most unique thing that we do for this community. There's really no other arts organization that's creating professional theatrical experiences for younger children, and it's by far and away our youngest demographic, including the when we look at the adult population that's going to those shows. So this is our millennials with young children, our younger Gen X. Those are the folks that we want to come to our main stage programming to, and so it's giving them a really easy reason to be able to buy a ticket to come to a show and have a well-rounded experience for their kids. And the PB&J Cafe is a way where we can say, hey, look, we're not just a theater that does, shows for kids. We're also this gathering place. You can have a meal here. You can engage, and theater goes just beyond the stage into the audience. So that the experience kind of starts as they enter the door and everything like that.
So we have a donor, One World Catering, who's providing the meal and providing a lot of the service. We're not raising prices much at all for them to have this experience. We're just saying, great, now included in your ticket, come a half an hour earlier. And we basically, our hook is the experience.
I directed Finn, and from the beginning, from the first design conversations, we started talking about how we could pull the PB&J Cafe into the design. And for us, that was a lot of making sure that the audience felt like it was getting pulled in even more than you already would for a kids show. There's a moment in the show where there's a jellyfish trail following Finn, and the jellyfish come over the audience and over the kids and off stage. And I do think we would have done that if we hadn't had the PB&J Cafe. But the first conversation about it came from, they're sitting at these tables. There's going to be light reflecting on these tables because we're going to make them oceany and beautiful. So they'll be able to see the light from all around, and it'll really transform the space. We've talked a lot about the design of the tables and what those were going to look like. And I got the personal joy of getting to build those tables and what they were going to look like. And they're simple, but it was a really fun challenge. And every year as we do this cafe, we can change what that table design is going to be, which is cool.
We have, instead of playbills, we have placemats. So think about when you went to, the diner as a kid and the back of it has activities. That's what we have. We have a QR code to the actual bios, but on the front of the placemat are our sponsors and headshots of all the cast, so they can connect their characters to the person, before and as they're watching. So there's that. We have art activities beyond that, so they're actually making fish and I think taping them to a fish stick, and they can draw, and there's actually a part in the show where they could play with them.
When it comes to marketing the PB&J Cafe surrounding Finn, we're really trying to kind of lead with the PB&J Cafe experience aspect as much as possible. We're trying to kind of use this to build a brand for the PB&J Cafe so that we can use it in the future around other new kids shows to hopefully attract an audience kind of for the experience and event itself. With the show, of course, being an important part of that, we're still definitely marketing a lot about Finn and his adventure and journey, but really leaning into the PB&J Cafe experience side of it. I've also been saying things like, you're not having to rush out of the house or rush to get your kids dinner before the show because they get to eat during the show, and really kind of leaning into the various aspects that come with the PB&J Cafe, and not just dinner, but also pre-show activities and getting to meet the cast after the show as well. So once you buy a ticket for the PB&J Cafe, our pre-show emails that go out before the show kind of detail in a lot of depth what to expect at the event. There's a menu that's listed there. It explains how we're going to take your orders. There's also a form if you have any dietary restrictions that you can fill out ahead of time, which just helps us get accurate numbers to our caterers. But that way we have as much information as possible and are getting less questions from parents. We also are offering a nut-free performance for the final performance of the show, which is also our sensory-friendly performance. So there's kind of one option at the end of the run for nut-free folks, people that have sensory sensitivities, and other things like that, just to make that performance as accommodative as possible.
As a director, it does worry me a little bit with kids eating in the space and during the show. But also, I know that they do during other shows anyway. And at least this is a little bit of a controlled chaos. But I also think that it's going to help engage kids a little bit more. Even I, as a fully grown adult, feel like I pay more attention to things when I have something to do with my hands and when I'm eating and things like that. So I think that I think it's going to be a great thing. I also am always worried about it. This was a bit of a lift, and mostly just in the collaboration between the administrative side of our operations and the artistic side of our operations. We had to collaborate a lot on just logistically what was going to happen. There is a cost that is associated with this as well, especially trying it out the first time and not knowing if parents were going to take the risk, especially because the tickets are a little bit more expensive than our normal kids show. Not very much more expensive, but enough to help offset the cost of it a little bit. The biggest challenge, I think, was figuring out how to incorporate the ordering and who was going to be doing that and who was going to be delivering these and things like that. We landed on our front of house and our ushers right now are going to be the ones who are taking orders and making sure that parents know what to expect. There's also some flexibility required of the backstage staff because the food service this year is in one of the wings. Because I directed it and because I'm part of the administrative staff, it was a little bit easier for me to coordinate with the production and what we needed to do. It's a really easy switch for us this year, and I think it will be going forward because of that, where we have 2 tables set up backstage for our catering partners to help compile the meals, and then our production staff 5 minutes before what is supposed to be our curtain time helps change over by moving our props table backstage as the catering company moves the tables out. But it is so it is a big lift, but I think that it's a big payoff too, because it's a really, really cool and unique thing that a lot of people have not heard of before, which is really awesome.
Really, there's not a lot of logistics. It's, well, don't repeat that. Don't play that for front of house. They'll get real mad.
There's a lot of logistics as far as we've done a lot of work working with our local caterer to make sure we have options for folks who have dietary restrictions, things like gluten-free, vegetarian, vegan. What kind of my mantra throughout this whole process has been we'll feed the soul and heart with the show, but it's just as important to make sure we can feed the bellies of everyone who comes into the space. As far as how we execute it, we doctored up some cute, simple order forms that allow people to just check boxes for what they want, since we do have a fairly limited menu. And then, those get brought to our friends at One World who prepare the dishes and then gets taken. So it works pretty similarly to your typical diner or dinner theater experience, and really trying to simplify and strategize all right, how do we get people to place their order, do it quickly. And besides that, it's going to be a lot of sweeping and mopping. We're definitely budgeting more time for cleanup than we would for any other show we do. But at the end of the day, it's just sweeping, mopping, and scrubbing. Any things I've been doing since I was a child, so it shouldn't be too much. And there is just a wonderful, simple pleasure on seeing people's faces light up as you bring them a plate of food that they get to enjoy. And not only do they get to enjoy the food, it's all thematically themed to go with the show. Little gummy sharks on blue iced cookies and pirate's booty and goldfish, blah, 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 blah. So being able to stay simple while still staying on theme has been really, really delightful.
But once all that happens, the show is exactly the same. Just maybe a few more things might drop on the ground during a show. So far, we're early on right now. We're open tonight, but it is already trending ahead of our new work in the previous season. So we feel like that's definitely indicative of what the PB&J Cafe is doing. It's going to take us until after this to say, okay, how is this done? Will this work? But we're already committed to this model for another year because we want to test it for 2 years to get the data and see how it does. And also, I just think it's gonna, regardless of the data, it's fun. fun. So
It's been interesting kind of trying to market both the PB&J Cafe and the show itself. I don't want to neglect the show and everything that goes into that and the artistry around that by, prioritizing the PB&J Cafe too much in the messaging. But we're really trying to build a brand for the PB&J Cafe to kind of help uplift future new TYA shows that we do. So I'm really curious to see kind of how this goes, get data from our survey. We asked a lot of more detailed questions in our post-show survey for this one to really dig into, why folks bought a ticket, if it would motivate them to come back, just the PB&J Cafe experience aspect, so that we have kind of all the data we can. And we're going to definitely test run this for at least 2 seasons to kind of see how it goes. But so far, it's definitely been helping sales for this show compared to the new TYA show we did last season.
Daniela, how did it go?
It went really well. We got a lot of really good feedback on how the PB&J Cafe portion worked, that we can implement for next season, including things like we had all of our tables were set up like medieval times where they're all banquet tables. So you kind of had to like go in on one end and then scoot your way down, which was a little bit difficult when you have children and people were climbing over the back of the seats and like climbing under the tables. So we're adjusting that for next season. But overall, I think it went really, really well. We had people were really excited about the idea, which was fun. We had a grazing table for the adults instead of a little snack box like what we had for the kids. And we got some feedback that, what am I supposed to do with my kid while I go get food? Which is fair. So next season, we're thinking about doing little snack boxes for basically a charcuterie adult lunch box.
I would say from the show perspective, it's probably, I don't know if the first time or it's the most times I've been stopped on the street for people to tell me how much they enjoyed the show of a children's show. It was just both an enjoyable production, but also one that people felt was important and impactful. And combining that with a unique experience, it just clearly resonated with an audience. So that was cool to experience. We did have a school drop out from attending, which I think is worth mentioning because while they didn't state it, we believe it was due to subject matter, which kind of reinforces the need for us to be telling this story with this subject matter. So it honestly just felt both more important and I would say sadly more important now. And so that was a surprise that it's still in this liberal community that's still something that we're dealing with. The experience certainly was more communal within families because normally you get to a theater and the first thing you do is tell the child to sit and be quiet. And now here they are at a table interacting. You're able to talk. It's more conducive to playtime, to conversation, just between the parents and the kids and each other, because you're not setting those rules. I also found that the kids were more ready to experience theater in an interactive way. Because they weren't immediately told this is the place where you have to sit down and be quiet and sit still. So it just created a better vibe for families to enjoy theater in a way that I think felt more like being at home. So I think it proved the concept that this worked. And now, based on the success and the feedback, we'll be able to improve it next year. And I think more people will buy into the PB&J Cafe, regardless of the title. And next year, we're doing a show called Mojo and Jimmy, another thing they've never heard of. But I think it's going to sell extremely well because people want to come back for what they already had. This allows us, it paves the way for us to take more creative risks.
I finally see the world can sparkle and shine, sparkle and shine. In an ocean that's so fluorescent, what if I don't conceal All the hues, all the reds and greens, and the neon pinks and blues. I